Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning to Prof Ain, our supervisor, Dr. Faiz and Dr. Arni, our panel for final year project. Today, our group consists of 3 people: me, Nur Ain Haziqah binti Mohamad Syahmi, Nur Fatini binti Ahmad Kamal Nazurudi, and Nur Syazana binti Zainudin will present our title, which is Tourism Students' Future Career Post-Pandemic Era. I will first start with chapter 1, which is the introduction. I will explain regarding the introduction to our title and background of our study. Imaga and Nicolau in 2018 has stated in the article that tourism education is a term that refers to any educational activities outside of person's home, placed for a time ranging from 24 hours to 12 consecutive months. Due to a lack of interest in educational tourism as a study and career option, tourism education has to face and endure several hardships that fall upon them. In this context, the focus will be on the tourism students. This means that our title, Tourism Students' Future Career, is a title that falls under this tourism education, but our main focus will be on the career for tourism students. That is for the introduction. Now we move to the background. As we all know, COVID-19, which began showing up in 2019, had a devastating impact on nearly every business in the world at its inception, and this included the tourism industry as well as the bulk of other industry, and this was stated by Hanafiah in 2020 in article. COVID-19 has restricted people's movement, making travel for a work or school difficult. Similarly, vacation. People must stay home to avoid contracting COVID-19 or spreading it. People did not understand how tourism could work when they could not travel, and the industry as a whole isn't improving due to this. As a result of this perception, the tourist sector or the tourism sector has been forced to deal with an unprecedented catastrophe such as COVID-19 by managing and directing the tourism organization. However, situation might seem quite different from the students' point of view. As stated in the slide, COVID-19 influence on tourism students' future career should be studied further in future research. This could be anything such as the importance of the online faculty development programs in tourism education, of course, or the needs of the industry after COVID-19, and long-term research on how a similar crisis will affect tourism and hospitality education.
Assalamualaikum, I am Fatini. Thank you, Ain. Now I will continue with 3 parts of chapter 1. First, I will start with problem statement, proceed with objective and research question. Problem statement. As the COVID-19 epidemic spread worldwide, the tourism industry has emerged as the most adversely affected sector compared to other sectors. It is because the virus that have the potential to spread, and as the result, government all over the world will begin to seal their border to prevent COVID-19 action from spreading further. Hence, the future of tourism students will be affected as the industry has several years to recover and stabilize. This is proved by Hanafiah et al. 2021. Tourism education is and itself have education in the art of traveling outside of one narrative country. Following Rushaidi 2021 article, student perception of working in the tourism industry are overwhelmingly negative. This situation indicates a decrease in interest in career in the tourism industry. Many unfavorable opinions among students are associated with poor salary and benefit, receivement advertisement, prospect, and high employee turnover rate. This is proved by Rushaidi 2021. Now, I will continue with the objective. First, to identify the impact of COVID-19 on tourism industry. Second, to examine the relationship of post-COVID-19 on tourism student future career. Next, we will move on to the research question. First, how does the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the tourism industry? Second, to what extent does the impact of COVID-19 has on tourism student future career in the post-pandemic area? In this section, I will discuss three parts, which are the hypothesis, significance of the study, and our theoretical framework. I will begin with the theoretical framework. As you can see on the slide, there are three variables for both independent and dependent variable. Under independent variable, we will discuss the MCO, hotel closure, and closure of country border, which are the impact of COVID-19. Meanwhile, for dependent variable are internship in the tourism industry, the current skill that have been learned, and the choice of occupation with other elements that support future career of tourism student during post-pandemic. Each of these variables are assumed to be influenced by each of them, which will be discussed on hypothesis. Next, we will move on to the hypothesis. H1, there is a significant relationship between the impact of COVID-19 toward tourism industry that can influence the tourism student future careers in post-pandemic. H1A, MCO had significant relationship influence with internship in the tourism industry. H1B, hotel closure had significant relationship influence with the current skill that have been learned. H1C, closure of countries border had significant relationship influence with the choice of occupation. Lastly, we will move on to the significance of the study. The finding of this study will shed light on the future job option for tourism students in the outbreak of the pandemic.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Syazana, and I will be the next presenter that will discuss the chapter 2, which is the literature review of our study. Before this, Fatini has been told about the independent and dependent variable of our study. So, I will explain the literature review specifically to each of the hypotheses. First hypothesis is MCO had significant relationship or influence with internship in the tourism industry. COVID-19 will have a profound impact on people's work careers, which said by Shuyu Zhang 2021. The MCO or Movement Control Order is one of the tools used by the government to keep the COVID-19 virus from spreading further throughout the country. Although this is an excellent method of controlling the growth of the COVID-19, it is not only the COVID-19 that is being blocked, but also the movement of every sector, including the tourism industry, is being kept from moving too far. As a result, this MCO ultimately resulted in an internship in the tourism industry for the majority of the students who were instructed to work without receiving any salary. Due to this situation, the present student tourism that were looking into this scenario feel hopeless with their future career, as they are not being fully exposed during internship period. Tourism students will not able to fully utilize their knowledge, and they are not able get work experience within tourism industry. Next hypothesis is hotel closure has significant relationship or influences with the current skill that has been learned. Hotels are one of the industry that have been impacted by the COVID-19, which has affected people worldwide. As a result, many hotels worldwide have been forced to lock their doors because people are too afraid to venture outside their homes to visit them. According to HOW 2020, from January 14 to 28, hotel occupancy declined from about 70% to 8% and stayed below 10% for the next 20 days. In February, about 40% of hotels were temporarily closed. Because of this incident, which occurred during the COVID-19 outbreak and for which there is no vaccine, tourism students gradually grow nervous and apprehensive about their futures, fearing that they will do nothing once they graduate from university. As a result, this hotel closure ultimately will affect the tourism students regarding their career skills that have been learned. Tourism students will
tourism students will not have a lot of chances to apply and sharpen their current skill that they have been learned during their studies period. The last hypothesis is closure of countries' border had significant relationship or influence either with choice of occupation. Among the result of these studies, it is thought that COVID-19 have a strong relationship with population movement. Because the movement of sick people has the potential to spread virus in regions of high risk, experts believe that a travel restriction policy will reduce the chance of COVID-19 spreading by PANG 2022. The closure of countries' border may impact the choice of occupation from tourism students. This is because the closure of a country's border will eventually affect the entire economy, particularly the tourism sector. Furthermore, when a travel restriction is implemented, there will be no trip activities available for individual to participate in, and travel provider will be less engaged in addressing this issue. Therefore, this travel ban eventually affect the future of the tourism student with their choice of occupation. Due to the travel ban which ban travel, the choice of occupation are being narrowed down to a few careers only. Now, I will continue with the population sample. I will start with the target population. For the target population, we are targeting degree students from Faculty Tourism Management at UiTM Puncak Alam. There are 360 tourism students for the batch from October 2021 until February 2022. Next, sampling frame. It is about the students' opinion of their future career as a tourism students during the post-pandemic era. The list of those opinions can be acquired from the survey made in the questionnaire, distributed through social media such as WhatsApp and Instagram. Now, sampling technique. In our study, the most suitable sampling technique for our objective is the non-probability sampling technique, specifically the purposive sampling type. Again, as I previously mentioned, the target group chosen is UiTM Puncak Alam tourism student, and the topic is connected to their future career in the tourism industry in the post-pandemic period. Lastly, sample size. By using the formula by Crixie and Morgan 1970, we figure out that the minimum respondent that we should acquire is around 186 respondent, and the maximum of it is 360 respondent. As a consequence, in order to acquire the best possible result from this study, it will be necessary to recruit at least 186 tourism students from among the 360 tourism students enrolled in degree programs at UiTM Puncak Alam.
Thank you, Syazana, for the explanation regarding Chapter 3. Now, I will proceed with Chapter 4, Finding and Discussion. I will first explain on the demographic profile of our respondents, starting with the gender. The total respondents that we managed to acquire is around 188 respondents. As you can see on the slide, there are 26.6% of the male respondents, which are around 50 male. On the other hand, there are 73.4% of female respondents, which are around 138 females. Therefore, the majority of our respondents are coming from female respondents. Now, we move to age. There are about 46 respondents with 24.5% that comes from people between the age of 19 to 21 years old. The majority of the respondents come from people of age 22 to 25 years old with 124 respondents, which is around 66%, followed by the respondents from age 26 to 30 years old with 17 people, which make it around 6% of it. Only 1% classified themselves as others, which are around 0.55%. Lastly, semester. Most of the respondents come from semester 3 and 6, with 30 respondents for each of them, which make it around 60% for each semester, followed by semester 2, 4 and 5 with 28 respondents for each semester. Each semester of 2, 4 and 5 has 14.9% for each of them. Next, semester 1 with 27 respondents, which make it around 14.4%. There are at least 6 respondents and 11 respondents that come from semester 7 and 8. This has come with 3.2% for semester 7 and 5.9% for semester 8. Thank you. Next, I will continue with the correlation analysis. For this analysis, we use the Pearson correlation analysis. From the result as was shown in the slide, the researcher identified that there is a weak uphill positive linear relationship which is around 0.451 between the tourism industry was affected by MCO, movement control order, due to the COVID-19, and having an internship in the tourism industry influence students' career path. The next relationship between the hotel closure is one of the impacts of COVID-19 towards the tourism industry, and your current skills that you learn will help you in your future career have a moderate uphill positive relationship, which is around 0.498. Then, for the relationship between the closures of the country's border is one of the impacts of COVID-19 on the tourism industry, and the choice of occupation has decreased in the tourism industry during the post-pandemic, as identified by the researcher as, which is a strong downhill negative linear relationship which is at negative 0.009 with significant at less than 0.01 level. This has happened due to the fact that the respondents feel that the closure of the border that does not affect the choice of occupation within the tourism industry.
Okay, next we will move on to the summary of hypothesis. Following are the results of each hypothesis which are based on the finding. As can be seen on the slide, the finding proven evident favor of it is and each hypothesis H1A, H1B and H1C. This is the item hypothesis and result. For the H1A, which is MCO, had significant relationship influence with the internship, the tourism industry. The result for this hypothesis is supported. Next, for H1B, hotel closure had significant relationship influence with the current skill that has been learned. This result for this hypothesis is supported. Lastly, for the H1C, closure of the country's border had significant relationship influence with the choice occupation. The result for this hypothesis is not supported.
In this section, we will summarize the demographic profile of the respondent, which is from their gender, age and semester. To sum up, most of the respondents of the survey come from a female respondents with 73.4% rather than male respondents. The majority of the respondents for this research come from people between the age of 22 to 25 years old with 66%. Besides, most respondents are bachelor tourism students of UiTM Puncak Alam that come from semester 3 and 6 with 60%, which amount to 30 students for each semester. Next, we will discuss and summarize the conclusion of the three objectives in our research, which is first, the relationship between MCO and having an internship in the tourism industry. Based on the finding, we have concluded that this was supported by the respondent who support MCO will affect their internship, which influence their students' career path. As mentioned by Shuyu Zhang 2021, the employment scenario has threatened the exclusion effect on young college graduates, and offline to online employment channels have changed. This statement has been supported by us, which proves that MCO has left an effect on working opportunities for future tourism graduates. Therefore, MCO does have a significant influence on an uncertain future career towards the internship in the tourism industry that influence students' career paths. Next is the relationship between hotel closures and the current skill that students learn. With regard to the research objective, this study found that there is a relationship between the hotel closure and students' current skill that they have learned, which help them in their future career. Due to hotel closures, fresh college graduates cannot utilize their hotel-related skills and expertise since there are fewer employment in the tourism industry. Many students just graduated from tourism-related programs, but their abilities do not match employment possibilities in their field. This research found that the closure of a hotel affects one's professional unpredictability. Lastly, relationship between closure of the country's border and the choice of occupation in tourism industry. According to PANG 2022, a travel limitation policy will minimize the risk of COVID-19 spreading because sick people may transfer virus to high-risk location. Our research found that although a travel limitation policy might reduce the spread of COVID-19, it does not influence the choice of tourism employment. This shows that the country's border closure has a little impact on the tourism sector jobs. Most respondents believe that closing the country's border has not reduced the number of employment. This showed that respondents know Malaysia's tourism sector provides many job opportunities despite the country's proximity. The closing of a country border does not affect the tourism students' desire to pursue employment in the sector in their future. That's all from me.
Thank you, Syazana. Now I will continue with the recommendation. As you can see on the slide, there are 3 recommendations in total, and the first recommendation is regarding the online and hybrid job opportunity as a new job scope that was offered by tourism sector. In spite of the fact that MCO used to hold events in different locations across the country, the organisation has recently opened the door to online and hybrid employment opportunity. This indicates that online and hybrid job opportunity was a new job scope that was offered by tourism sector, despite the fact that it's not the typical career scope and student imagine that the company offered. This is observable on the Tourism Sarawak website, which feature an event that combine element of type of tourism. Next, it is recommended that they use all the knowledge and skill they have acquired. When looking forward in tourism industry, students should not limit themselves to using simply their knowledge of hotel. Rather, it is recommended they use all the knowledge and skill they have acquired. The last recommendation is encouraged to look forward in variety of related field rather than concentrating their effort exclusively on the specific industry. The last recommendation would be encouraged to look forward in a variety of related fields rather than concentrating their effort exclusively on specific industry, due to the fact that majority of respondents believe that the closing of country border does not affect the job changes in Malaysia. They are able to work on any job scope within the tourism field. This indicates that student majority in tourism should be qualified to work in any capacity within the tourism industry in Malaysia itself, regardless of employment scope. That's all from us. Thank you.